Since the East series switched over to the party system for its games, things have been going pretty well for Adol and his adventures. Starting with East 7 back in 2009 and extending to the most recent entry, East 9, we have now had more than a decade of party system games that have brought many new fans into the fold and become favorites for old fans as well. Obviously, things haven't been perfect, and there have been bumps along the way, but looking back, it's been a pretty good stretch for Falcom and East. The question then is, what's next? For those who don't know the East series, it is a series of action RPGs, all but one of which star Adol Kristen, a silent protagonist, red-haired, sword-wielding adventurer. It is developed by Nihon Falcom and has over the years had games localized by Atlus and Konami, but mostly by Xseed and, as of East 8, NIS America. It is one of the oldest RPG series still running, beginning back in 1987, and the most recent entry came out in 2019 in Japan and 2021 in the West. The series has had several different phases of gameplay styles over the years, starting with a bump combat system, then transitioning into a top-down style with more dedicated action called the Nepishtim system, and finally most recently the party system, where you battle and switch between party members alongside Adol in a third-person camera style. Now, there are several routes that Falcom could take the East series, and I plan to discuss several of them, giving my predictions and hopes for the series moving forward. The video will contain spoilers for specifically East 8 and 9. I will try to refrain from spoiling any other games in the series, but East 8 and 9 are fair game. You have been warned. Now, I'll start with what Falcom has already said about the potential next East game. Interviews with Nihon Falcom's president, Toshiro Kondo, have revealed unsurprisingly that work is already underway for the next game in the series. Back in the spring of 2021, though, it was confirmed that the game would in fact be East 10 and not the East 5 remake that quite a few fans have been clamoring for in the past few years. The game is confirmed to be using Falcom's new game engine, which debuted for a scene in Trails into Reverie, and is being fully implemented for Kuro no Kiseki. Another important detail revealed in interviews is that Falcom is looking at changing the gameplay system. Details are sparse as to how. This does seem to indicate the party system in its current form may have run its course. If this is true, then it is consistent for Falcom to start with a brand new adventure in East 10 rather than a remake, as they did a new game for both the Nepishtim system and party systems when those systems were introduced. Therefore, if the pattern holds, the game after East 10 will be the East 5 remake, following in the footsteps of the remakes Oath in Felghana and Memories of Celceta. I'm going to proceed from here on with the assumption that the next game is going to use a new gameplay system and be an entirely new adventure of Adol's, which I'm generally fine with, although I do want an East 5 remake sooner rather than later. That brings me to what this possible new gameplay system could be like, and I've got a lot of half-baked ideas and nothing really concrete. I think it'll be really difficult to follow up on the party system. One idea is going to a system where you control one character in combat, but you can switch between multiple characters, akin to a game like Genshin Impact or even the Eternian era Dana sections from East 8. Sort of a hybrid model of the party system and Nepishtim system. Of course, the game could really shake things up by making Dogi playable for the first time since 7, but I'm not sure they'd go that far. I do think, though, that multiple party members that you can play with still makes sense. It really helped the characters stand out in ways the previous games didn't quite manage. However, if they did go with just Adol alone in an adventure, I think the two most recent games have different previews of how that could look. From East 8, you've got the Eternian Dana stages that could play with Adol having different elemental powers, helping to battle different enemies and solve puzzles, which would also be reminiscent of Felghana and Nepishtim. It could also be a more stripped-down version like the solo adventures of Prison Adol in East 9 with emphasis on puzzles and tense combat encounters, but I feel like that path is unlikely. Either way, some of the things that I hope the series keeps going forward, including the various traversal methods and skills found in East 9, and the greater character emphasis seen starting back in 7 and used strongly in 8 and 9 as well. Things that should not return: raid battles. The idea just didn't work, and in my opinion bogged down both 8 and 9. The next big question then to answer with regards to East 10 is where the story is going to take place, and when. The East timeline is pretty full, so I could definitely see this being a later adventure to give them more room to expand on Adol's adventures. However, there is still a between 1 and 2 year gap between the events of East 8 and East 6 that could be a prime position for a game. I don't think that's going to happen. They might want to save that slot for another game later down the line and just keep going off of East 9, but I do have a fun idea that I think would be great for the in-between 8 and 6 slot. That idea connects to where Adol should go next on his adventure, and I think he should go to Greek. With East 9, we got a story that held an homage to Joan of Arc with Aprilis/St. Rosvita, and I think the East series could use that moving forward for more ideas. Ancient Greek, its mythos, history, and culture is so rich with potential adventures that they could make an entire series of East games just riffing on those adventures. Plus, it could set up some new conflicts with the Rom Empire and its ever-growing ambitions, and a possible reunion with Sahad and some other East friends. The idea I mainly had then would be embracing an Adol solo gameplay model again, and modeling his adventures off of the labors of Hercules if you're going off of the Roman name. Let's be real, I think we'd all be good watching Adol go one-on-one with a lion. Again. Adol goes through so many labors and adventures, he's basically a Greek hero already, and so embracing that aspect of him could really work when he finally gets around to visiting Greek. It can even set up some unique gameplay challenges that might ask the player to try being a little stealthy or having different ways to solve tasks. The ideas are there, and I would love to see the aesthetic they would come up with based on Greek architecture. However, that is just what I would wish for with East 10, or at least some East game later down the line. I think what is more likely to happen is this game will take place after the events of East 9 when Adol is 25 or 26. That will help the new system feel more like a progression, at least until they remake 5, but that's not what we're thinking about right now. That leads me to the end of East 9 when Dogi asks Adol where they should go next and offers up 2 options, Brittania and Garmin. I think the more likely choice is Brittania considering Garmin has already had a game set there with the Oath in Felgana, but I will explore both possibilities in this section. For Brittania, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do an homage to King Arthur after doing one for Joan of Arc. That might be a little difficult though, considering it doesn't really fit Adol all that well. Another possibility then would be looking at other British history, Scottish-English conflict, Norman invasion, Viking raids, there are options there. No clear idea like I have for Greek, but there's a lot of ways they could go. In the article I referenced earlier though, Kondo talked about 10 being a celebration of the series. In that case, Garmin could actually be a good location for it. Why? Because then certain characters might be brought back such as Laxia or Elena. Perhaps they could even incorporate the actual myth of Ys in, such as the part that references the return of Ys engulfing a city and Adol trying to prevent that from happening. I do still think Brittania is the most likely option, but I like the idea of going back to Garmin if 10 truly is supposed to be a celebration of the series thus far. The last thing I will say is that, in my opinion, the best stories that this series has told are about people other than Adol. Adol is a catalyst for action, but the focus and real heart of the story should be another character like Donna and the castaways for East 8. I don't need Adol to become more of a character than he already is, and I hope they recognize that and let the new characters tell their story aided by Adol and Dogi. As for visuals, I do hope they go more colorful akin to East 8 than East 9, although if they go Brittania that may be hindered by the weather. Falcom should take advantage of the new engine to really make the visuals appealing, and if the character designer from Kuro no Kaseki wants to work on East 10, I think they should jump right in because I'm loving those designs. Animation though is very important, especially for East with its busy combat at times, so I hope they make sure to contribute some resources towards that as well. Presentation is an area I think the East series has done pretty well in despite Falcom's limited budget, and I hope that continues to be the case, whether that's for the animation, the art, the voice acting, or the music. Lastly, I'm going to talk about when we should expect East 10, and it seems pretty clear that the plan is for the game to come out in Japan next year to coincide with East's 35th anniversary. That is an important date for the series, and I wholeheartedly support that. Give Trails a break and do East 10, and maybe even a non-East or Trails game afterwards, give us some time to catch up. With a 2022 Japan release then, when should you expect it to come to the West? Well, presuming that it is NIS America who will be working on the game, I think that a similar time frame to what happened for Ys 9 seems likely. They've already committed to Trails from Zero in 2022, and Trails to Azure, Trails into Reverie, and Boundless Trails Legend of Nyata for 2023. I can't see them fitting in Ys 10 with that lineup for 2023, which makes it likely that Ys 10 would have to wait for 2024. This is somewhat dependent on when in the year Ys 10 launches though. If it is a winter or spring release, maybe they could squeeze it into late 2023, but we shall have to see once more details release. I expect more details towards the end of this year once Falcom has their annual shareholders meeting, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see what we should be prepared for. It hasn't been all that long since I completed my journey through most of Adol's adventures, but I gotta say I am looking forward to another one, even if that adventure may not be here for a few years. There are a lot of different ways the Ys series could go from this point, but I'm hoping Ys 10 kicks off a fun new era of gameplay and story for the series, and eventually results in an Ys 5 remake as well. Let me know in the comments what you think or want from a new Ys game, and your thoughts on my predictions/hopes. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one, which is more likely to happen if you subscribe, so make sure you do that. In any case, I hope you have a great day, and happy gaming.